Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hedgehog Academy. And today, it's about, because remember, I've been away from this for quite a while. The paint's dried up. Not my brushes, though. I always take care of my brushes. So, it's like walking into a shop after you've been away from it for, oh, I don't know. Wow. Ever. And you go, where do I begin? Hey, you know you've been out of your studio way too long. Oh, horrible. But this is actually kind of fun because, you know, you're peeling away a piece of plastic that if you can actually reshape it afterwards, looks just like, oh, I don't know, the jar that it came. Okay, so we know that some of our jars, wow, have, right, oh, by the way, these little jars, I really like them because they condense everything down. Let's see if this does not fit it. Oh, perfect. Okay, I'm also not going to clean my water because I want that little bit of green tint in there to help cool things up because I'm muting things back. If it was going to be a clear glaze or something like that, or if it was going to be a tinted glaze, I'd use a solid color and I'd thin it out really thin. But in this case here, I'm using titanium white with this green that tinted the water. Okay. And all I'm going to do, in fact, I want to use a larger brush. I don't want to use a small one. And just remember, folks, that your brushes, if they're cool and damp to the touch like this, that means they've got water. If they're room temperature, not wet enough. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to come back in. I'm actually looking at my reference. Now my next step after this, believe it or not, my next step will be go to really dark because I'm using white. I'm neutralizing a lot of stuff. I'm going to come in and I don't want to hide any of that underpainting either. Remember, this is a back and forth thing. This has nothing to do with the subject. Remember, all this tension I'm building with this picture will be, a lot of it will be covered up. And notice I'm kind of trying to stay away from the real dark parts. Well, okay, they already didn't, but oh well. Yeah, all these things I'm just doing are based, you know, kind of where I see my lights at. Now that's interesting. really don't care if I go outside the line, okay? That's one thing you got to keep in mind is we worry too much about staying in the lines and not realizing that if we go outside the lines, it helps unify the background with the subject. And when we do that, it actually makes the painting more cohesive. So even though I've done a little bit of work, I like that. It's very light, very airy, very careful. Like I said, I'm like waking up from a long night's sleep. And whenever that happens, you want to make sure that you're fully awake, which means it's probably going to take me till the end of this picture to say, okay, I'm ready to do something like this. Or, you know, one of my more complicated paintings. Because, again, it comes down to how well you can do things. Now, I'm also captured by the idea how light the subject is, okay? Oh, hold on, move them over. How light the subject is in comparison. So again, like I said, whenever you're working, you've been away from it for a long time, keep in mind, it's a process. You didn't get into the process. I mean, it's easy to walk away. Oh, I'm going to take a break, I'm going to do this. And then 7 months later, wake up going, can I even hold a brush? Okay? In the case here, it's like we get kind of, I would say arrogance plays, ego, arrogance, all these things play a part in it because, well, I'm a painter. I'll always paint. But if you've been away from the craft for 7 months, for crying out loud, should you be able to just walk right in and do it? It's like waking up from a sleep. Okay? And when you wake up from a sleep, you know, you're kind of disoriented, you go through the 7 stages of grief, how to get to the coffee cup, you know, how to get to your coffee type thing, and then of course, once you're fully awake, then you can function. So in the case here, it's the same thing. Even though I've painted for years, I understand the process that I can't just jump right back in and paint. Okay, it's a slow process of getting awake again, a little bit at a time, understanding, absorbing, thinking about everything that you've done, where you're going to head with this. Because remember, if you've been away from it for a long time, you got to think yourself through that process again. Just don't think you can jump right back into it and continue to work the way you did before. You know, there was a time when I was doing 4 pictures a week, and I was just pumping this stuff out. Of course, I was 20 some years younger, and I was pumping these work out, and of course, all these things are embedded in your brain, but walk away from it for a while, then try to go back and do it. Yeah, I learned some heavy lessons from that, and I learned that some people who are close to you have really good advice. Part of the good advice is when you do walk away from something, there's a reason, usually reason why. If you keep wrecking pictures, it means it's time to clean the brushes, walk away from it, go take photographs, get more reference material, all that kind of stuff. If you don't, you will suffer because you'll continue to wreck pictures, not realizing that's just a primal cue to say it's time, the tank is empty, I need more information because I'm burned out. I came from my second wife, Carrie. She's passed away a few years ago, but that advice has always stuck with me. So whenever I run into a stopping point, I can't think, hey, it's just time to take a break. The problem is this last time was 7 months, but there's been other things going on to influence that, such as teaching for 4 years. That took a lot out of me because I was trying to impart the information to another generation, younger people. Whether it worked or not, I don't know. Time will tell. The other part, you know, is you get a bit nervous about getting back into it full time because remember, it's not a steady paycheck. You get used to that steady paycheck, it's very hard to say, okay, I'm going to do, yeah. Guess what? That's another problem I have. Because now I've been stuck in the regular work world for the past, well, this is year 5, so guess what? I think that makes you lazy. Okay, from my end of it. So I am going to reverse the process. Yes, I'm going to walk away from the steady paychecks in the fall. I'm going to go down to part-time at work, still hold a job, but go down to part-time at work, and then incorporate more shows and more events artistically and teach more and switch the roles back up so then I can get active again. Now, we seem to have this idea that as we get older, we slow down, we stop, we whatever. And I'm suggesting just the opposite, that you speed up, you do more, you force yourself into that action again, and you do it in such a way to where you're back at the top of the game where you was 20 years ago. Okay, and the only way you can do that is by just saying, okay, I'm 64 years old, it's time to kick it up again and do things. So I don't know if that's inspirational, I don't know if that's advisable, I don't know anything except this is the direction I'm heading. Remember, everything is a hypothesis and theory till you actually put it into practice and it proves itself out, right? Okay, there you go. But let's go back here a quick second. I like my stopping point. I like what I've done. It muted some of the highlights down. I still got my textures coming through here. Of course, it's dried. I can go off if I want, but I'm not going to because, again, my next step is to go to my purple. And I got to keep it thin because that's going to be veiled back. And I also got to use, once I go to purple, then I got to go opposites. Okay, so the process goes like this. If you start with a mid-tone range, oranges, maybe even some purples, maybe some greens, you have to go either to one extreme or the other to start balancing things out. So the extremes here would be purple, which is my dioxazine violet, Cabazola. That's almost a black purple, and then titanium white, which is polar opposites. One is really dark, one is really light, and then you work in between. But when I start doing it like this, where I'm actually doing an underpainting, toning these things up, building on top, then I gotta think myself through that process. Like what I'm doing right now is I'm talking about it, but I'm also thinking myself through this process to help me go back into full doing this, just hammering these things out. Because I got tons of pictures to do, got them partial way, but haven't worked on them in months. So yeah, and good pictures too. I've got a couple elk, a moose, I got a wolf picture. I got all these things in process. Even a rabbit picture I got to work on. The damn thing has been stuck in my head. It's a wonderful one. She's leaping through space. But again, we come into this type of stuff. Okay, hang on a second. I got to do something. Okay, I'm back. Sorry the video is so long today. If you happen to decide to force yourself all the way through it, well, then you deserve a kudos award, because some of the stuff I talk about, it kind of, I get distracted. I'm like anybody else. I hear like a squirrel, color, oh, shiny objects, whatever. But back to this a little bit. So my next stage, because I just veiled it with titanium white, I'm going to go completely opposite. So the next one, I have to think myself through how thin I want my dark purple, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. That's purple, believe it or not. Let me make sure, because I actually did buy some black. Oh yeah, okay, this is purple. This is Cabazola. Nova Color carries it. It's as good as Golden, Lascaux, Liquitex, Holbein, Old Holland. It's good. And I've tried them all, so I keep coming back to this because it's very inexpensive. It comes in from Nova Color Paints out of California. If you have never used them, you can only order them online. You can't get them through the stores. You can't get them through Jerry's. You can't get them through Dick Blick. You've got to go straight to the store. So novacolorpaints.com. Tell them Kevin mentioned it. Okay. Well, there's this artist who does stupid videos on Facebook and YouTube, and yeah, he mentioned you guys. Now my 12 viewers over the past 20 years probably noticed this. So yeah, Nova Color Paints, you'll really like them. Let me grab a. Oh shit. Okay. There you go. If that's backwards, I'm sorry. But there it is, Nova Color. And I am left-handed, so this is not my left hand. Just so you know. Okay, everybody. Ow, dang it. You guys have a good one. And when I decide to go dark on that, we'll go. You guys have a great day. Everybody paint.